Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So this is now part 2 of my back-to-back stories, just while I'm getting more up to date with everything. So as promised, if you watched my Matthew Shepard video, you heard that I'm obviously recording back to back, which is why I'm in the same look, same outfit, same everything. So if you guys can like, share and subscribe. If you're new here, my name is Silhouette. I try and release my content on a weekly basis. Sometimes, quite recently, it hasn't worked out that way, but I will always post an explanation to Instagram, my community page, and to TikTok. So I just want to apologise for the lack of content. It's just sort of one thing after another this past year or so. But you guys have really helped me with everything that's been going on. It's quite recently, in the past couple of days or so, just been the tip of the iceberg, if I'm honest. But I'm here talk about these cases. So this is now, we're going to be talking about a young child called Lawrence King. He went by the nickname Larry, so just to make it clear that obviously I'm not talking about the chat show host. This is a 12-year-old boy that we're going to be talking about. So, first things, we're going to be going back to the beginning. And Lawrence, he was born as Lawrence Phobes King. He went by the nickname Larry. He was born on January the 13th, 1993 at the Ventura County Medical Center in Ventura, California. His mother, she was 15 years old at the time. She was addicted to crack cocaine and alcohol. And his biological father had abandoned his mum while she was pregnant. It said at the time that the two were actually married, which is not an uncommon thing. If America had things like, so in England, where I am, well, Scotland mainly, sorry, we have a place called Gretna Green. And this is basically where people can elope to be married, and you could just go. It's very similar to what they do in Vegas. So you could just walk into this chapel and get married. And obviously, a lot of people don't validate it as a real marriage, but it is. And we're all thinking, obviously, yeah, like this girl was 15, but it's not that uncommon, and especially in the time that we're talking about in the early 90s. A lot of people looked a little bit older than what they do, or what they were. You look at pictures of your parents when they were the age that you are now, and you think, oh, they look a little bit older. I think it was just people just had to grow up a lot quicker than what we have to now, and it was quite easy as well to get away with fake IDs, and they were a lot more passable than what they are these days. With in the early 90s, late 80s, we didn't really have the technology to detect a fake ID than what we do now. It's possible that she could have just had an ID that said she was 18, 21, but in fact she was 15. Now, 2 years later, in 1995, she has another little boy called Rocky. And Rocky and Larry, they are taken away from her by social services, and eventually they are adopted by Gregory and Don King. So they changed the boys' surnames to King. And this is quite rare in these stories that parents will take on siblings, but they do. They want to keep the boys together, and everything goes well. Now, Larry, he was prescribed and diagnosed medication for ADHD. And according to his adopted dad, Gregory, he had been diagnosed with a reactive attachment disorder. Now, this is a condition in which a child fails to develop a relationship with their caregiver. Larry was also reportedly forced to repeat the first grade, and by the third grade, he had been bullied by his fellow students to his effeminacy. And reportedly, around 10 years old, he came out as gay, which is incredibly young, if I'm honest. So I think back to my childhood. You know, Larry wasn't that much older than. I mean, I'm only a year older than what Larry would have been now. I was born March of 1992. And I came out at 18 in 2010. But being 10 years, if I think back to being 10 years old, I didn't really have a concept of what being gay was. I was picked on for being gay. Even at that age, the other boys would pick up on things because I did have friends that were girls. I didn't go around playing football. And obviously, when it was said, it was meant in the way that they intended it, very negative. It was something that wasn't right, but I had no idea what the word actually meant, what it meant to be gay. So to realise at 10 years old is something that I've not really come across. I know there's a lot of stories at the moment about people that are discovering themselves at a lot younger ages and coming out as gay and trans. And, there's people in my community that are saying, listen to these children. But if I'm honest, I don't know. Obviously, 9 times out of 10, children just live in a fantasy world. And that's not to discourage what Larry was going through. He may as well have realised that he was. But I don't know. At 10 years old, it seems incredibly young to me. But he lived his life as openly gay, and this was a target on his back for bullies to pick on him. So, at the age of 12, Larry, he's placed on a probation for theft and vandalism, and he was actually caught taking food from the fridge at the home where he was living. November 2007, he was removed from his adoptive home and placed into a group home and treatment centre named Casa Pacifica. And he alleged at the time that Gregory, his adoptive father, was physically abusing him. And this is something that Gregory vehemently denied. So eventually, Larry starts attending E.O. Green Junior High School, and this is at the 7th grade. He finds a more accepting bunch of friends, I would say. He's hanging around with girls. Like I said, it's something that I did. I had quite a lot of friends that were girls. He was, however, still ridiculed by the boys in his gym class. Again, I can relate. They openly bullied him when Larry began attending the school, wearing accessories that were deemed girlish. He was wearing dresses and skirts, high heels and makeup. And in January 2008, his younger brother Rocky also suffered bullying because of obviously being related to Larry. Now, some teachers believe that Larry's manner of dress to be distracting, and this was then seen as a violation of the school dress code. And the California anti-discrimination law prevented any discrimination based on gender, including gender expression. So they felt that they had no option but to leave him to do these. They had no power, basically. And in addition to dressing in this clothing, Larry had begun to ask to be called Letitia, and this was in a week and a half before the incident. Now, again, something that obviously a lot of not all gay children, but a lot of gay teens, gay children go through. I don't know if gay children's the right one, but a lot of gay teenagers go through. I certainly did when I was this age. There was a short while for so the monstrosity that you see before you. Before I decided to start doing drag, I for a short while out and around, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, I thought that I was transgender. Because I constructed this character in my head. Um, and she always had red hair. She very heavily influenced by Jerry Halliwell, which is why you'll see me sometimes in the orange wig with the blonde streaks. Um, she would wear the outfits from Christina Aguilera's strict era, so the leather chaps and whatnot. But to me, this was a character. And eventually it got to the point that lines were getting blurred, reality was getting blurred, and I thought maybe it's because I want to become this woman. And I think this is like a common thing a lot of kids go through, like gay teenagers go through, that they are attracted to the same sex, so therefore they must be the opposite sex. Certainly for me, anyway, and I've heard other accounts of other people talking about this. So, this incident with, in regards of him wanting to be called Letitia and obviously dressing in the way that he and expressing himself in the way he wanted to express himself, the school issued a formal notice, and this was sent out to every teacher on January the 29th, 2008. It was written by Assistant Principal Sue Parsons. And this was just to basically say that he's got the right to do this, and any other issues then to come to her and they can be discussed. Now, in the months before the incident we're going to be getting on to, Larry, he began to respond in kind to the sustained harassment from his peers. He would tell the boys in the lockers who were harassing him that they looked really attractive, or if he could sit at their table in the cafeteria. Some of the boys reported to the teachers that Larry would tell them, well, I know you want me, like going up to them in the halls every time they said something. And in court documents, prosecutors described these behaviours as a response to the increase in aggression from other boys. And this was particularly true of a boy called Brandon McKinney, who Larry had a number of verbal disputes described as acrimonious. And this was in the weeks and months leading up to the incident. So, before we get onto the incident, we're going to look at who Brandon was. So, Brandon David McKinney, he was born on January the 24th, 1994 in Ventura, California. His mother, Kendra, she had a real bad criminal history. She was addicted to methamphetamines. In 1993, Kendra actually accused her husband, William, of choking her to almost unconsciousness after she had accused him of stealing ADHD medication from their older son. Now, he pled no contest and served 10 days in jail and 36 months on probation. And between August 2000 and February 2001, William had contacted CPS at least 5 times to express concern about Brandon living with his mother. In 2001, he files a restraining order against Kendra, and in 2004, Brandon was actually placed into the custody of his father as Kendra had entered a drug rehab program. Now, Brandon obviously had an issue with Larry, felt uncomfortable around him, and was one of the main targets of his anger, and would bully Larry relentlessly. Larry would retaliate by saying, oh, yeah, I know you want me. this obviously made Brandon incredibly uncomfortable. And this is one of the first stories where I do have a little bit of sympathy for the perpetrator. I don't get me wrong, I do not condone what he has done. I do not condone what he was doing. But we all know about unwanted sexual advances, unwanted attention. We all know that how uncomfortable that can make us. And that's why I have a little bit of sympathy for this boy. So in July of 2008, Newsweek reported that a day or two before the incident, Larry walked onto the basketball court, and in the middle of the game, he boldly walks up to Brandon and asks Brandon to be his Valentine. And this was in front of all the other team members, who then just started making fun of Brandon and humiliating him. And just after lunchtime on February the 11th, Larry passes Brandon a note in a corridor. And this allegedly said, "Love you, baby." And later on that day, Larry was then seen wearing makeup and high-heeled boots, and they called it parading up and down the corridor. And this was in front of Brandon. And according to a teacher, a group of boys were laughing at Brandon, and he was getting visibly more and more upset about this. And assistant principal Joy Epstein, she noticed his reaction, and she pointedly wags her finger at him to tell him, "Don't say nothing." When Brandon enjoyed the teasing because of the incident, he attempted to recruit other students to assault Larry, but no one else expressed any interest in this. So he then goes up to one of Larry's friends and he says to her, "Say goodbye, because she's never going to see him again." So on the morning of February 12, 2008, Brandon was seen, repeatedly looking at Larry during a class in a computer lab. And 8:15 a.m, Brandon, he reaches into his backpack and he pulls out a .22 caliber revolver. This gun belonged to family members. He points the gun at the back of Larry's head and fires twice. He then throws the gun to the floor and exits the classroom. He exits school and he just starts making his way home, but he's apprehended by police around 5 blocks away from the school around 7 minutes later. So Larry was transported to St John's Regional Medical Centre. He was listed as serious condition. He was declared brainstem dead on February 13th, but kept on a life support for 2 days. And this was so his organs could be donated. Now, shortly after the Day of Silence for 2008, this was intended to protest LGBT harassment, and this occurred on April the 25th. This was specially dedicated to Lawrence, this particular day. But Greg, obviously Lawrence's adopted father, was reportedly saying that he was unconvinced that Larry was gay, as Larry had only recently told him that he was. And also that Larry had told him that he was bisexual. Now, Greg believed that Larry was sexually harassing Brandon and has expressed concern that Lawrence was being made a poster child for gay rights issues. So, this is what I'm saying about having a little bit of sympathy for Brandon, because it can't have been easy for him, having someone coming up to you constantly and giving you unwanted attention. I don't know whether it was sexual. I don't think it was sexual, but it could have been misconstrued as sexual because of the comments that Larry was making towards Brandon. Obviously, I do have sympathy for Larry as well, because it's never easy growing up as a gay teenager, especially when peers find out or they twig on. Because, like I said, the names that you get, they say it as they mean it, and it's never in a good way. You know, the way they describe it is never describe anything positive. Like, you're just seen as negative, you're seen as wrong. So it swings and roundabouts with this story, how I feel. So in August 2008, Larry's family filed a claim against the high school to Ventura County Superior Court, and they alleged that the school was allowing him to wear the makeup and what they saw as feminine clothing was a factor in leading to his death. Now, according to the California Attorney General Office, the school could not legally have stopped Larry from wearing the clothes because of the law against gender discrimination. Now, so this led on to Brandon's pre-trial, and the pre-trial lasted for around 3 years. And his actual trial then begins on the 5th of July of 2011. So on the first day of the trial, James Bing, who was Brandon's half-brother, was he was abolished by the judge after it was heard that James went to the jury outside of the courtroom and addressed them and said that the fate of my brother is in your hands. He was then banned from the courtroom unless he was summoned to testify. And the prosecutor depicted Brandon as a popular teenager. He was skilled in martial arts and firing guns, as well as being a white supremacist. It was never good to be described as in court. She went on to describe Larry as a small guy who had often been picked on, that Larry wore high-heeled boots, he wore makeup and jewellery, along with his school uniform. Scott Whippet, who was Brandon's attorney, described Larry as the aggressor, said that he was often sexually aggressive and making inappropriate remarks, and this provoked Brandon. Again, the remarks that were made, yes, probably a little bit inappropriate. But I don't think it was sexual. I'm just going to say that. I don't think it was. I think it was just his way of dealing with the bullying, and it just made Brandon really, really uncomfortable, and he went around it the complete wrong way, took drastic action, and ended up in disastrous consequences. Now, students of Brandon testified on July the 7th, 2011. One witness said that Lawrence had told her that he had changed his name to Letitia. Another witness said that many students made fun of Larry, called him offensive names behind his back. This is when he come to school wearing makeup and jewellery. But a few of the witnesses said that they never noticed Larry making the sexual advances towards other students, but his sexual comments that he made was just messing around with Brandon. And then the Joy Epstein, who was the vice principal of E.O. Green School, at this point she had actually quit. She testifies on July the 11th, 2011, and she said that she had discussed Larry's behaviour with other school officials of the school district, and they decided it was, according to the constitutional rights of California, legitimate for King to wear what he wanted unless it violated the school dress code. So Joy said that high-heeled boots, the makeup and the jewellery were all allowed in accordance to the dress policy. She said that another administrator within the district said that the school must protect the students' civil and equal rights. And another teacher testified that pupils had told her that Larry would seek them out and follow them into the bathroom. She considered this to be sexual harassment, but was told by Joy that the school could do nothing about this behaviour. which is absolute bollocks, because that is what they're there for. They're there to protect all the students. And if you've got a student who is reportedly sexually harassing others, it's your job to do something about that. On July 22nd, 2011, the jury was shown footage of a video in which Brandon was fighting in the juvenile hall where he currently lives. One of the corrections officers testified that the defendant was a good kid in the honours programme for good behaviour, and he had relationships with people of all backgrounds and origins. And he said that within the juvenile hall environment, fighting was a routine occurrence, and that Brandon was not prone to violence as the prosecution was alleging. Then another teacher, Dawn Baldwin, she come forward and testified that she counselled Larry and told him he should not wear the attention-seeking clothing if he did not want to receive the negative attention. She also gave Larry, which completely baffles me, this part. She's telling him not to wear attention-seeking clothing, but then, because she realised he's exploring his sexual identity, she gives him a strapless green chiffon dress. Surely that's going to garner more attention to him, make him stand out more if he was to come to school wearing that. Like, where is the logic of this woman? Now, she's saying that she intended for him to wear this outside of school hours. A photo was shown of Larry holding up the dress. Now, many people in the courtroom have reportedly cried at this. Greg, Larry, who was Larry's father, he became really upset and he wanted his family to leave. But before doing so, Dawn, who was Larry's mother, swore at Dawn Baldwin's 13-year-old daughter, which I don't understand. The judge later barred Dawnkin from the remainder of the trial, and because the school administrators were allowing Larry to wear what he wanted as long as it didn't violate the dress code, the defence was arguing that this allowed Larry to sexually harass Brandon. So this trial ended without a verdict and was declared a mistrial by the judge. And this was Ventura County Superior Court Judge Charles Campbell, and this was on Thursday, September the 1st, 2011. The jury reported that they were hopelessly deadlocked and were unable to reach a verdict. There were 8 weeks of testimony with almost 100 witnesses. The jury had been deliberating since August the 26th. The jury had taken 4 votes, and the last vote was split between 7 jurors voting for voluntary manslaughter and 5 voting for either first degree or second degree murder. Later analysis showed that the defence attorneys had chosen to pursue the gay panic defence strategy, with several jurors later stating on television Larry had been bullying Brandon, not the other way round, and this left Brandon with no visible way out of this. On the 5th of October, a second trial was ordered and commenced. And finally, on November the 21st, 2011, Brandon pleads guilty to second degree murder, voluntary manslaughter, and the use of a firearm. He was sentenced to 21 years behind bars, and this was initially in a juvenile facility. And then once he turned 18, he would be sent to mainstream prison. There'll be no credit given for the time served prior to the trial or for any good behaviour. And eventually he was sentenced on December 19th, of 2011. Now, as of March of 2023, Brandon is imprisoned in the Folsom State Prison in Folsom of California. As to what his behaviour has been like in prison, I couldn't find any information on that. I'm hoping that, like obviously I said with the guys that killed Matthew, I'm hoping that he's worked around his issues and actually discovered how to be better. But like I said, I'm in two minds about this story because while obviously I empathise and sympathise really a hell of a lot with Larry and what he was dealing with and what he was going through, I do have a little bit of sympathy for Brandon. Just a very small amount. Not condoning what he's done. What he's done, he should ultimately deserves to be punished for that. That's what I'm saying. But at the end of the day, he just saw it as no way out for him and just wanted whatever was going on, this unwanted attention, he wanted it to stop. But at the same time, I'm hoping that he's realised that his actions led to where he is now. Not just obviously the murder, but actual teasing and bullying led to what has happened. I'm really hoping that he's figured that out and sort of worked on himself. So that is all I've got time for you guys today. I just want to thank each and every one of you for watching, for sticking with me. Thank you so much. Cannot do this without you. If you guys can leave a like, a share and a comment, that would really help. If you feel that I've missed anything out, just feel free to comment down below. As stated, some of these cases, it's really difficult getting hold of the information that I can find. But I'm always open to suggestions and any information that you guys can give me. So as always, just a huge thank you, and I will see you guys real soon for the next true crime story with Silhouette. Take care and stay safe.